Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. Well guys, it is Thursday. That is right. Yesterday was New Comics Day, and I said on yesterday's show that I was going to talk about some of the comics that came out yesterday, but to be honest, I wasn't that excited for what I read. I read, some X-Men, some Superman. I even checked out the main comic that came out yesterday, Marvel's Legacy. It's a big 59-page comic that's supposed to, be very important. And basically the premises of this book was that there have always been a group of Avengers going all the way back to prehistoric times with Odin and Phoenix and the original Iron Fist, the original Black Panther, and blah, 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 blah. Comics like this, they want to try to shake up the narrative in the Marvel Universe or in the comic universe, and really all it did was bore me, to be honest. It was a big book. I really wasn't interested in it because these are characters that I really didn't care about. I know they were trying to set the scope for a grander scale in the Marvel Universe. These books where they try to shake up the core of what the universe is all about, they don't really get me. I like me some personal, small stories about characters that I want to care about. This, I just didn't care about it. I mean, to be honest, I'm sure a lot of people are talking about it. I'm sure a lot of people liked it, and that's fine. You liked it, that's awesome. However you get your kicks, that's great. But to me, I just didn't like it that well. So there were a couple comics that were decent, but nothing, to be honest, that I would want to talk about. I will say, though, the second issue of the new Mace Windu Star Wars comic came out, and that comic just keeps on being crap. And the art, I don't like the art. The story is just ridiculous because it doesn't matter. It's not a story that matters. The characters are horrible. It's not a good comic. And as a Star Wars fan, I try to read all the Star Wars comics, or at least give them a try. And this, by far, I feel has been the worst Star Wars comic to come out in the new canon since Disney took over and they started publishing with Marvel again. And that even beats the Princess Leia comic, which I didn't think was that good. Anyway, this Mace Windu one is worse. So, very disappointing. But there, I guess, is my short review of comics for yesterday. Let me know what ones you liked, guys, because I really didn't find any of them that were worth getting excited about. But maybe you feel differently. So hit me up on dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Or, of course, on Facebook or Twitter. Let me know if there are any comics that you really enjoyed and I'm just being a jackass. Okay, getting into the topics for today, there's a couple pieces of news that came out yesterday that I wanted to talk about. And starting off just briefly, I want to talk about the Venom movie. That's right, it was coming out yesterday. According to Variety, actress Michelle Williams from Manchester by the Sea and Shutter Island and bunch of other films. I know her best from Dawson's Creek, but that just shows my age. Anyway, she is in talks to play the lead female role in the upcoming Venom film by Sony, which stars Tom Hardy. So according to Variety, she is one of several actresses who are in talks or possibly being considered for the role. Another one is Kate Mara from House of Lies and Fantastic Four, but they're all in contention for the role. Now, for those of you who've been following this story for quite some time, Venom, as we know, is a Spider-Man villain. And Spider-Man is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. But, nonetheless, Sony is going ahead and trying to push other Spider-Man supporting characters in their own films. Even though I feel like Marvel Studios and Sony kind of have a different opinion as to what's actually happening. So Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige kind of confirmed a while ago that this Venom film isn't really part of the MCU. He said, quote, "No, I think they're focusing on making a great Venom film. I don't know much about it, but I know they're off to a good start with Tom Hardy." He really doesn't say anything about how it's part of the MCU. And Venom without Spider-Man might be a bit of a challenge. The film is set to start filming late October and then comes into theaters October 5th, 2018. So there's a couple things I took away from this story. I'm going to talk about the more positive things first, and then I'll be a Debbie Downer. So bear with me on this, guys. Michelle Williams being kind of a front runner as a female lead in a film. Okay, great. Michelle Williams is a great actress. You know, take any good actress and say, oh, they're going to be in this comic movie. Awesome. Kind of like Natalie Portman in Thor. Great. Natalie Portman's good actress. Academy Award winning. She's going to be in Thor. Great. But when you take an actress like that and put her in a role that isn't very good or not really developed, the role is still not good, depending on who you get with it. But the idea of Michelle Williams and Tom Hardy together, when I picture them doing a movie together, I'm thinking of hardcore drama. And taking that idea of a hardcore drama and putting it into a Venom style film, I think could be very interesting. Take it and give a very serious take, make it almost like a monster supernatural film, perhaps. I think something like that could be very interesting. The idea excites me, even. The problem with this is, well, first off, I'll give my first problem. This report said that they're going to start filming in late October, and the film comes out in early October 2018. So in less than a year, they're going to shoot the film, add special effects, do reshoots, do marketing, all that stuff to go along with it. A film of this caliber, I think we can all agree, is considered a major motion picture or going to be a blockbuster simply because it's technically a Spider-Man film. Filmmaking is hard work. It's long, it's tedious, it's a big collaboration. I've been, part of a couple small movies or a couple small productions in my time, and even those took a long time to do. And most motion pictures, I feel like, if you want to get it right, takes more than a year. A lot of sequels and stuff that come out, usually if they're announcing a movie, if they do a movie and then they want to do a sequel, I give them a 3-year window. 2 years is usually what's been coming into, like the Star Wars movies. They're popping those episodes out, 2 every year. You get episode 7, then 2 years later you get episode 8, then 2 years later you get episode 9. I got it. Those are, a machine. You can pop them out real quick. I just feel like a year to work on this film is a little too short. I think they're just busting this thing out, just trying to get it out there because Sony wants in on the superhero game. They have fallen on their ass in regards to the Spider-Man franchise, and they see everyone else like DC and Marvel and even Fox just, turning out superhero movies, making millions upon billions of dollars, and they want back in the game. They thought they had a super hit with the Spider-Man franchise, and what did they do? They fell on their ass and crapped the bed on it. So now they want back in the game, but they don't have Spider-Man. They made a deal. The MCU has Spider-Man. They can't really use Spider-Man in their independent films, even though Sony is the one actually getting all the benefits, dollar-wise, from Spider-Man Homecoming. But I think they want something that's their own, something they don't have to associate with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because people really, when they see Robert Downey Jr. in the movie and it says Marvel Studios at the beginning, people believe it's a Marvel Studio film and not a Sony film. And I totally understand them wanting to have a franchise of their own. It's the big thing nowadays. Everybody wants their own cinematic universe. Even Universal's trying to get their Monster Cinematic Universe off the ground. But I just feel like with a major motion picture like this, giving it a year to do filming, post-production, reshoots, all that stuff, I just feel like it's rushing a little bit. And when you rush something, like you did say Amazing Spider-Man 2, Sony, it's not going to come out great. So for that gets me a little worried. And I guess the main part is still, everyone's question is, we can't get a straight up answer as to if it is actually going to be connected to the MCU. Because Kevin Feige says, no, this is not part of the MCU. But the MCU has Spider-Man currently. So if you put out a Venom film that doesn't have Spider-Man in it. And not even that, doesn't have the current Spider-Man in it. I don't see how it's going to work. Venom is a famous Spider-Man villain, but he's not Spider-Man. The average moviegoer doesn't care about Venom. Nerds, sure, they care about Venom. They think he's cool and, he's hip. He's one of those 90s characters that came out that's edgy, where the average moviegoer, if you put out a Venom film, are going to be like, what's this? Unless you attach Spider-Man's name to it. But I don't see how you can attach Spider-Man to it without making it part of the MCU. Do you get where I'm going with this? Now, there has been a lot of talk recently of superhero or comic book genre films outside of their cinematic universes. Example, there's a whole story about how Todd Phillips and Martin Scorsese are doing a Joker film outside of the current DCEU. It's not going to be connected. It's going to be Joker. It's going to be a different actor. And it's not going to be connected to the current DCEU films such as Justice League, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad. It's going to be its own thing. And I think doing that is fine. The problem I'm having with studios, though, is they're doing it with the villains. They're doing it with the Joker. They're doing it with Venom. Villain movies do not sell. You know why? Because in a story narrative, people want to know about a hero. And you can say Suicide Squad was about the villains, about the bad guys. Give me a freaking break, Warner Brothers, okay? You humanized every one of those characters to where we can sympathize with them and feel for them and make them feel like they were the actual heroes, okay? So don't give me this line of marketing bullcrap about how Suicide Squad was about the villains, okay? Misunderstood misfits, not villains. Don't try to sell me that again. And with Venom, he has been a hero. He's been an edgy hero. There is a story to tell with Venom that I think will be very enjoyable for the audience. But one, you have to put Spider-Man in there because he's part of the origin, because he's such a big part of who Venom is. The Eddie Brock character that Tom Hardy's going to be playing, he's the original Venom, but he's also the most uninteresting part about the Venom character. The current Venom, or one of the current Venoms, aka Flash Thompson, has a much better story to tell than Eddie Brock. And you can tell that story a lot easier than telling Eddie Brock's story. Eddie Brock's story is he got mad at Spider-Man or Peter Parker, and the Venom costume or the symbiote was also mad at Spider-Man, and they got together and they got pissed off at Spider-Man and tried to fight him. Okay? Spider-Man's in that story. Flash Thompson, a wounded veteran, gets part of a military experiment, and he attaches himself to the symbiote and becomes a superhero and kind of fights the symbiote's urge to become a darker hero and kill, but he's trying to use this bad alien to do good things. A lot easier story to tell with that storyline than with the Eddie Brock storyline, and a more compelling story. I mean, first off, you have a whiny Eddie Brock versus a war veteran, injured war veteran. I mean, come on, that right there is going to sell your tickets, okay? I mean, look what's going on in the country right now. How many people are standing up for patriotism, okay? That's going to sell your tickets. So I don't understand Sony doing it this way. Go back to my original point. Michelle Williams, good actress, in movie that's coming out, great. Fine. And her and Tom Hardy, good actors, joining this film. Okay, you can put these two in any film, and I'd say great. Some good actors are going to keep acting. Great, sounds great. But I'm just very hesitant about how Sony is doing this, and I think they're going to make the same mistakes they did with Amazing Spider-Man 2, simply because they want to get back in the game. They're out of the game, they're trying to get back, but they're not taking their time and doing it right to where they're going to produce a good product. But I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't ever want to see a bad film. Every movie that I watch, especially every comic movie that I watch, I want to be good. Nobody walks into a movie saying, oh, I hope this movie sucks ass. No, it's not what it is. I want it to be good. I'm just very hesitant about the story they're going to tell. Alright guys, moving on to the next story of the day. James Cameron was at a screening of Terminator 2 Judgment Day last week and was talking about how they're possibly working on a sixth Terminator film. So in 2019, Cameron, who created the franchise with Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, gets the rights back to the franchise. And he's already got ideas for a sixth Terminator film. And he's already got his director, actually. Deadpool director Tim Miller is set to helm the project. He's got Arnold Schwarzenegger back on board, and he has announced that Linda Hamilton will return to the franchise as Sarah Connor. So the Hollywood Reporter says that Miller and Cameron are working on a new trilogy of Terminator films with a writer's room that includes David Goyer, who helped make Man of Steel and the Dark Knight trilogy, and Josh Friedman, the one who created the Terminator spin-off TV series, The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Now, the untitled sixth Terminator film is actually set to pass the baton to a new generation of characters. Cameron told the Hollywood Reporter, quote, "Absolutely, yeah. A lot of this is handing off the baton to a new generation of characters. We're starting a search for an 18-something young woman to essentially be the new centerpiece of these stories, and then a number of other characters around her and characters from the future. We still fold time in the story in intriguing ways, but we have Arnold's character and Linda's character to anchor it. Somewhere across there, I won't say where, the baton gets passed, so to speak." So the film is set to come out July 26, 2019. No real story points are revealed at this point. All we know is Schwarzenegger's back, Linda Hamilton's back, and it looks like that Cameron is going to be producing the film with Tim Miller set to direct. So fans of the Terminator franchise have been waiting a long time for Cameron to get the rights back, because in their eyes, Cameron is the one who made the only two good Terminator films. You had Terminator and then Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which really, Terminator 2 is the best known film of the franchise. It's the blockbuster. It's what everyone kind of holds up on the pedestal in the franchise. Then you had Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, which, to be honest, it wasn't as good as Terminator 2. I'll definitely give you that. But I like the story. I like the message. And it was decent. I'll give it the fact that it was decent. Terminator Salvation, piece of crap. Piece of crap, piece of crap, piece of crap. Terminator Genesis, or Genesis, as it's supposed to be called, I wasn't highly entertained by, but I don't think it was as bad as Salvation. I think Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones totally rocked it as Sarah Connor, and I would much like to see her continue that role. Because Terminator Genesis was supposed to be the reboot for the franchise, much like how Star Trek and X-Men Days of Future Past redid their timeline to erase crappy movies. That's what Terminator Genesis was supposed to do. But unlike Star Trek and X-Men Days of Future Past, Terminator Genesis itself was not well received and really didn't reboot the franchise very well. So it looks like this one is said to be a direct sequel to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So essentially kind of like what they wanted to do with Aliens and Neil Blomkamp's film, where it was going to be a direct sequel to Aliens. You had Aliens, and then the untitled next Alien film with Neil Blomkamp, which I think is pretty much dead at this point. Now, Terminator 2 Judgment Day was over 20 years ago. I think it was like 25 years ago or something like that when it came out. I remember seeing it in theaters. I was a little kid, and my dad took me and my brother to go see it in theaters. Looking back on it now and the kind of action and violence this film had, it was probably a little inappropriate for my dad to take me and my brother, who I think I was maybe like 8 years old or 6-year-old at the time. So seeing that movie in theaters probably wasn't the best thing. I remember that scene where the T-1000 stabs the foster dad, and looking back on that, I'm like, a little kid probably shouldn't see this. This is a long-running franchise, that's true, but it doesn't make it a great franchise. Because when you look at it, Terminator 2 Judgment Day was a great film. And Terminator, the original one, was really, when you look at it, a B-80s sci-fi film. So yes, Terminator's been around for a while. I don't call it a successful franchise because in my eyes, it's only got one actual good film. Now the story points are there. It definitely has the potential to be a great franchise, but Hollywood studios and directors just can't find the right way to do it. Bringing the original creator of the franchise, James Cameron, back into the fold could be a great way to rejuvenate this franchise and make it great again. The problem is, Mr. James Cameron, who's producing the film, who is the creator of this franchise, who seems like he really wants to be involved in it, has got his hands tied or full. He has invested a lot of his time and money into the Avatar franchise. He's promised 3 or 4 more films of the Avatar franchise, which they're allegedly starting to film this month. Finally, after, what will it be, 8 years after the original one, and they're just now starting to film it, and this one I think isn't even going to come out until 2020. He's got his hands tied. He really won't have much time. If he's committed to his Avatar films, he's really not going to have that much time for Terminator. Now, bringing Arnold and Linda Hamilton back is something that I'm not really entirely on board. Like I said, this franchise, in my eyes, isn't that successful. It's got one successful film and then a string of non-successful films. 25 years ago or whatever, they made Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Bringing these characters back is trying to get the base excited. The Terminator fans out there would be excited to bring Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger back. Why? Are they simply bringing them back to get people excited for the franchise? Because in my eyes, we don't need them. In fact, in my eyes, I say let's just wipe the slate clean. Let's start completely fresh. You don't have to say, okay, we're going to do a sequel to Terminator 2. You tried that already. It failed. You tried that again. It failed. You tried another one. It failed. Okay? Let's just take the Terminator franchise, which again, like I said, I believe is a good story to tell, and restart. Don't try to, do a sequel / reboot like Terminator Genisys, or just do a direct sequel because you're going to forget about these other 3 films and just be a true sequel that's 25 years later with a much older Linda Hamilton and Arnold. Don't. Why? Why do we need that? Just do a freaking reboot. Okay? This franchise has been through enough. You've had 3 attempts after Terminator 2 to try and fix it. It hasn't worked. Right now, if you go and try to make another sequel to Terminator 2, it's just going to, I think, muck up the waters even more. Now, with that being said, I like Tim Miller. Good director choice. Did a good job with Deadpool. I'm fine with it. James Cameron. Good filmmaker. Good producer. He's got his hands tied, though. So I don't know how much time this creator of the franchise is actually going to have for another Terminator film. It's a great storyline. Just reboot, because you've had several attempts at trying to do a sequel to Terminator 2 to continue this franchise, and they all have not been successful. I think you need to just scrap it all, reboot, take that, come up with a great story, original idea, and go from there. And then I think this franchise has the potential to be something good. And as far as the writer's room, well, Transformers had a writer's room, and then we got the last Transformers movie, Transformers, was it The Last Night, I think is what it called. It should have been called Transformers, the last piece of crap we're going to put up with. Okay? Writer's rooms do not do anything for me, given the fact that I was excited for the Transformers writer's room, and then they produced Transformers The Last Crap. All these mixtures of Tim Miller and James Cameron and Friedman, they all seem like a good mixture to make something good. The question is, making a good movie is hard work. So are these guys the right mixture? Are they going to give it enough love and attention in order to do that? Especially since the film's coming out in less than 2 years, allegedly. Like I said before with talking about Venom, movies, good movies, take time to make. And if they're already working on the story idea or have a script idea, great. But Mr. Cameron, the guy who's helming all of this, he's got his hands tied full. Either Avatar is going to suffer or Terminator is going to suffer. Given that Avatar has had much more financial success than Terminator, I think the studios, especially 20th Century Fox, is going to make sure that Mr. Cameron stays focused on Avatar, especially how much money they're giving him to make these films. Once again, I want this to be good. I never want to see a bad movie. I think the Terminator storyline is a good story to tell. They just have to find a good way to do it. You want to call me? I got a few suggestions. My ideas probably suck too, but I think I have some better ideas than what these last couple Terminator films have been. So hit me up. Let me know. I'm ready to go, Cameron. And that's it for me, guys. Now it's time for you to fire back and let me know what you think. Do you like the idea of Michelle Williams joining the Venom film? Are you hesitant on the Venom film like I am? And also the Terminator franchise. I say reboot. I say forget doing a sequel. Let's leave out Arnold and Linda Hamilton. Let's just do a complete reboot. Restart the franchise from fresh with all that baggage. Do you feel the same way? Let me know. Hit me up, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Facebook group and on Twitter. Find me personally on Twitter and Instagram at Slim, SLYM, Dayspring12. And, of course, on Patreon now. Go check that out. See what you think. Let me know how I'm doing, guys. And that's it for me today. Tomorrow, The Inhumans premieres on ABC. So I'm thinking Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I'm going to get some review out. And I'll probably make Lisa, my wife, watch it with me too. I'm not a big fan of doing these by myself. But given scheduling and the way the world works, I do them by myself now a lot. But on the weekends, I'm going to try to do at least one with Lisa or someone else coming in, because I feel like the shows are a lot better when I have someone here, a better rapport, better back and forth. So we'll watch Inhumans, try to get something out this weekend for you guys, and we'll see if it's the biggest ball of crap people are talking about, or maybe it has a fighting chance to find a home on network television. But we'll see. Alright guys, so that's it for me today. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.